All right, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Here we are. It's Talkback. It's Tuesday. That's John King over there. I'm Peter Christian, and we have a lovely guest in studio. Not that John isn't lovely, but this gal's got you beat big time. We're talking with Jennifer Troop. She is supervisor of the Endocrinology Diabetes Nutritional Lab.
Nutritional Center.
Wow, Nutritional Center.
They give Peter a run for his money.
My goodness, that's got to be a hell of a business card.
It is. Lots of.
So tell us a little bit about Jennifer and how long you've been doing this.
Oh, boy. I have been in the world of diabetes for about 15 years. I'm a registered dietitian by trade and certified diabetes educator. And when I started, I actually started working in Kalispell and just loved working with my diabetes patients. And about 5 years ago, I moved to Missoula and started working at St. Patrick Hospital. And I'm now managing our endocrine practice. And we just try and have our center just help those folks who are dealing with a chronic disease, not just diabetes, but obesity, nutrition disorders or issues. We have 4 providers there, nursing staff, diabetes educators, and dietitians. So you get a full team to help you take care of specifically your diabetes.
Now, you said you've been working with diabetes for about 10 years. Has it changed all that much? Have you seen a lot of big changes recently?
Absolutely. We have the 2 types of diabetes, type 1 and type 2. And when I first started working in the practice of diabetes, we only had a few oral medications for the treatment of diabetes. Now we have injectables that are not just insulin. We have new types of insulin. We have about 5 or 6 different classes of oral medications. So the ways to treat diabetes now have significantly changed. We actually now have inhaled insulin. We had inhaled insulin a few years ago, but it just didn't take off on the market. It wasn't the right product, but now it's back. So you really need to know what is out there to help you to treat this disease. And of course, lifestyle is a cornerstone. How are you eating? Are you exercising? How are you managing your stress? Are you managing your weight? But then we do have a lot of different tools, it's great to see that.
So do they have like a Flintstone vitamin insulin yet, or
not yet?
Something the kids actually want?
Right. No, we should work on that.
Yeah. Okay. You just write that on over to your boss.
I do know. I have a friend who actually used to work here, who encountered or had a wound, and it got infected, and he was a diabetic, and it turned out to be a massive problem, and I'm sure that folks with diabetes have to have special care with their lifestyles. I mean, there's you want to live a full and happy and productive life, an active life, but you have to be really careful when you have diabetes, right?
Well, you do, and there's things, preventive care, and that's just what you're talking about. We want our patients to live a life despite their diabetes, that they control their life, their diabetes doesn't control them, and that's what we really try and empower them to do. And you can do that successfully, but it will take certainly preventive care, such as getting your flu shot, getting your pneumonia shot, checking your feet, keeping your blood sugars under control. A hemoglobin A1C, for example, is a measure of your blood sugar control. It's a 3-month average of your blood sugars. You want it, under 7%. When it gets higher than that, right, the more sugar in your blood, the more an infection can breed, just like what you're talking about with that wound. And it's hard for things to heal. Your eyes suffer, your nerves suffer, your kidneys suffer. So, and it really can destroy every organ in your body, but that's the negative side. We look at that doesn't have to happen as long as you get to a center like ours, see an educator, take care of yourself.
Okay. A lot of people out there know what you were talking about because they have diabetes, but there's another larger portion of the community that probably doesn't experience that on a daily basis, probably don't check their blood very often. Yes. What is the transition like for you, and how do people diagnose or kind of come to realize that they have diabetes? Because I bet a lot of people live with it and don't even know they have it.
So a couple things. You're right. It's like we hear about blood pressure being the silent killer. Diabetes can be the same way because you don't really feel it when your blood sugars are high. So you can go for a long time if you're not going in and getting a checkup with your doctor or testing your blood sugars. So if you look at first those folks that are undiagnosed, and we know that there's probably about 10 million folks in the country with diabetes that don't even know it. Okay, so that's a scary thing. That's actually what today is about. It's Diabetes Alert Day, and it's just a way to recognize that you could be at risk and go get tested. And actually, if you go to diabetes.org, the American Diabetes Association has a risk test you can take. Some things that make you at risk: overweight, underactive.
Check. Check.
High blood pressure.
Oh, wow.
Let's see.
It's nice
If you-
knowing you, John. See you later.
Yeah, you're
See you
gonna
later,
come with
buddy.
me after the show.
Really, it's been nice. Okay. Well, moving right along. I'm sorry.
If you have a relative with diabetes, okay, anybody in your family, if you're part of an ethnicity such as Native American, African American, those things put you at risk if you're a woman who's had a baby with gestational diabetes. So there's lots of things that put you at risk, and you can prevent it. We know from the National Diabetes Prevention Program, and St. Pat's has one of these programs at our hospital, that if you lose just 7% of your body weight, you can prevent diabetes by about 60%.
Wow.
Yeah, it's and it's exercising 150 minutes a week and losing weight.
Now, I've been watching Mike Huckabee. You probably have heard his story.
Yes.
He said I have beaten type 2 diabetes. He says I don't take my medication anymore. But not my doctor has approved that. He said, and whatever it is he did, he had some sort of regimen that he did, whether it's vitamins or supplements or whatever, lost weight, exercise, that sort of thing. And now he says he's free of diabetes. So if someone has diabetes, can they ever be someone who used to have it, or is it always going to be there?
Basically, no. He still has it. He just has it under very good control.
Okay.
And if he gains weight back, his diabetes, his numbers will come up. He still has diabetes. He just has it under control. Yeah, and he exercised and he cut his calories, and that's how you lose weight. There's really not any magic to it.
Right.
That's kind of the basics of it. The only way we see that some folks can really put diabetes in remission, we call it, is when they have bariatric surgery.
Really?
And there's some research that when we take out a certain part of the intestine, that it goes into remission.
Now, I'm curious. Can you explain why being overweight would cause diabetes to be a heightened risk?
Yeah, sure. Because the more fat I have on my body, the more resistant I am to the insulin being produced.
Gotcha, because it's spread. It's more diffuse.
Yeah, well, so your insulin doesn't work as well. So maybe if you go back to let's go to type 2 diabetes, because that's really where your risk for type 2 diabetes because of being overweight.
Okay.
So the more fat you have on your body, and typically folks with type 2, they gain it around their abdomen. Okay, that's a kind of a clear-cut sign of insulin resistance. So type 2 diabetes is where it used to be called adult onset. Now it's just type 2 because we know, unfortunately, kids who are 5 and 6 sometimes get it. And it is because your pancreas is still producing insulin. It's just the insulin is not as effective anymore. And that's those fat cells. There's something with that causes a resistance. So therefore, the body has to produce more insulin to try and get the blood sugars down.
We're gonna take a break. I want to talk about kids when we come back, because we've been hearing for the last several years that there is an obesity epidemic going on in our schools, in our families. It doesn't matter if it's on the reservation or doesn't matter where it is. The kids are becoming more and more obese. Can we talk about that when we come back?
Sure.
All right, we'll be right back. Joining us, Jennifer Troop. She's with the Diabetes Center at St. Patrick Hospital. We'll be right. By the way, you have a question or a comment? We'd love to take some calls. This lady can answer your questions. 721-1290 is our number. We'll be right back. Rolling right along. 721-1290 is our number. We have Jennifer Troop with us from Providence St. Patrick Hospital. We're talking about diabetes, and it's Diabetes Alert Day. Is that right?
Yes.
All right. So now I asked you before the break a little bit about an epidemic of obesity among our children. Is that really happening, or is it just hype?
There is absolutely an epidemic, unfortunately, of obesity. Yeah, our kids now. You just take the clock back 50 years, right? Kids were outside running, playing. There you go. There weren't cell phones, there weren't iPads, there weren't computers.
No video games.
No video games. More food was prepared at home, right? There weren't as many restaurants that we can easily just go to and get a cheap, high-calorie, high-fat meal.
Right, which is so good for you. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, I'm curious. One of the things that has always taken me aback, my family, we're not the skinniest in the bunch, right? Mm-hmm. But yet we don't have any obesity that I know of. Maybe some of my grandparents, maybe when they were really old, but after they had cancer and other things. But no one in my direct family has diabetes. Mm-hmm. On my wife's side of the family, though, spick and span, healthy, like military, tough, ready to go. Carpenters or builders outside all the time, active, physical, diabetes. And so what kind of horrible luck do you have to have? Is it just genetic? Are you born with a curse on you, or what? How does diabetes work its way through humans, and why is it not hit some people and hits others?
Now you have a family tree.
Yeah, that's a good question. So I think that goes back to the differences too. I mentioned type 2 before the break with the insulin resistance factor, but type 1 is about 5% of your cases of diabetes are type 1. And those are your folks who are leaner. It's an autoimmune disorder. So it's really completely different than type 2 in that way. Type 2 is not autoimmune. So something triggers the cells in the body to kill or the cells in the pancreas that produce insulin. And so you have to go on insulin right away. So there's that part where folks will have type 1 and it's very genetic. That can have that. And that's where it used to be called juvenile onset. You mentioned the child that you babysat. Same thing. So that's type 1 diabetes. So very different than type 2. Type 2, you can very much become insulin dependent. The longer you have it, in fact, the more likely you are to go on insulin.
Can you have both at the same time since they're different?
No, it's one or the other. Yeah, but there's kind of something we call type 1.5, where it is this little mixture where you have really complete insulin deficiency, but yet you have resistance with that as well. So you can have a little bit of the similar part. I'm not sure what I'm trying to say.
Now, what is pancreatitis? Because you're talking about the pancreas, and every time I hear that word, I see medical professionals just go white in the face. I mean, what is so bad about pancreatitis?
Well, it's just very. Typically high triglycerides will contribute to pancreatitis, and it's inflammation of the pancreas, and it's. Yeah, the pancreas is a very important organ. That produces insulin. That's all part of.
And can it be transplanted? Can someone say, I would like to donate my healthy pancreas to somebody, when I pass on?
Am I the only one that didn't understand pancreatitis better because the word triglycerides was mentioned? or am I alone? So what does that mean?
So if you have very high triglycerides, you could be at risk for pancreatitis.
Okay.
Yeah. So that pancreatitis is kind of a separate disorder from diabetes, but certainly folks with diabetes are at higher risk for it. And typically you're hospitalized, and at that point in time you might have to go on some insulin because your pancreas isn't going to work as well for you. But that can be resolved. So that's kind of a different part of that.
And you were mentioning earlier that certain groups had a proclivity towards having diabetes. And I think you mentioned Native Americans, which obviously lots of them in Montana.
Yes.
Why? Is this something that just passed down, or is it some kind of evolutionary development in different people groups? Is there any benefit to your body acting this way?
Benefit to your body having diabetes? Is that?
Thanks for calling.
No, go ahead.
Okay. So as far as, like Native Americans are twice as likely to have diabetes. And
do we know why?
It's because of the genetic factor.
Okay.
And we also know, however, when they eat, if they ate the traditional native diet, that the rates were much lower. But once they were westernized and they ate our Western way of eating, that raises it. There's actually a group of Indians, the Pima Indians in Arizona. 50% is the rate of diabetes in that group. So that's where I say genetics are very strong. There will be folks who have obesity and will never get diabetes because they don't have that genetic factor. But we see as we are reproducing and we are growing, now we have 9.3% of our population has diabetes. Okay.
What was that?
9.3% of American adults. Now we know about 3 times that many, almost 30%, are at risk for diabetes right now. Okay, and that's the scary part. Okay, so a third of our population is at risk. They predict by 2050, 30% of our population will have diabetes. Okay, this is a costly disease.
Man, yeah, it is. By the way, in case you're wondering.
Yeah, it affects quality of life. And the thing is, we can prevent it right now.
Now, what are some of the things? Let's just talk about this for a second, because if you're a diabetic, you know all this. But those who are not diabetic might be really surprised at the daily and monthly and weekly costs of controlling your diabetes. It can run into the hundreds of dollars a month, right?
Oh, yeah, or thousands.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
right.
there's some diabetes medications out there that are easily a couple thousand a month. Okay. Yeah. Plus, you have test strips, and if you're on insulin, you have to test 6 to 8 times a day. Okay, it's about $1 per test strip to test your blood sugar. Some people test 12. Some people that get really good control need to test 12 times per day. Now, there are things called glucose sensors that are on the market that they're so close to replacing finger sticks. They aren't there yet. You still have to test twice a day to calibrate the machine, but this reads your blood sugar every 5 minutes, and it's inserted into your abdomen, and you have a receiver that shows you the trends of your blood sugar. And it's amazing.
And it's got a pump with it, right?
Well, you have some that are connected with an insulin pump, and you still have to, some folks will think, oh, so it's just going to do all my work for me. You still have to do the work of testing and inserting how putting in how much insulin you need, but there's a lot of formulas and things we put in there for you, and we train folks at our center how to use these devices. They're amazing, and once they replace finger sticks, that's going to really revolutionize, I think, diabetes care, because you will know anytime what your blood sugar is.
My friend Sven had one of these put in and was bragging about being a cyborg when he showed me his pom-pom. But so what is the future for diabetes? Is this something that is going to be able to be cured, or is it always going to be this kind of management, this slow, costly management?
So I think type 1 diabetes, there is a chance for cure, and I think it is coming. I know the American Diabetes Association is working hard with that. Type 2, not necessarily, because it's, again, a different beast, right? Yeah, insulin resistance, the only way you're going to really get rid of some of that is just by losing weight and exercise, and that's what we all have to work on.
Okay, we're going to take a break, come right back, and wrap this up. And I know that if you have a question or a comment, she's not going to be with us the whole time. She's leaving here in about 10 minutes. So if you have a question or a comment or whatever, you want to get something off your mind, you've been curious about this, maybe somebody in your families we can talk about some symptoms, things like that we can look for. Give us a call right now at 721-1290, and we'll be right back. Tuesday, and only a few minutes left in this segment. Jennifer Troop, kind enough to be with us from Providence St. Patrick Hospital, talking about Diabetes Alert Day. And Catherine, you're on. Go ahead, please.
Okay, I wanted to ask you about the kind of diet. So do you recommend high fiber, low carb, restricted protein, restricted calorie, 900 or fewer? The role of sugars like fructose, sucrose, simple carbs, HFCs in type 2. And what kind of fat is you want to low fat, but you don't also want to get rid of any brown fat, right? Or no?
Well, you're correct. Brown fat is, that really helps boost our metabolism. The thing is, we can't eat brown fat. It's what we're born with, and as a baby, we have a lot more of it, and as we get older, we have less.
Well, I thought you could get that from animal fats.
No, you can't.
Okay.
So as far as, what the
Thanks,
recommendations for type 1 or type 2 diabetes, it's just really a healthy, well-balanced diet. We look at like the plate, for example, like USDA has myplate.gov, for example, gives a good example. Half your plate from non-starchy vegetables, okay? Starchy veggies are potatoes, corn, peas, and winter squash. So you want half from things like lettuce, tomatoes, cucumbers, broccoli, cauliflower. So half your plate from that. A quarter of it from a lean source of protein, like, chicken breast, pork loin, sirloin, things like that. And a quarter of your plate from, like, whole grains. So, right, brown rice, whole wheat pasta, whole wheat bread, things like that. So you really, and you want to pay attention to the carbohydrates that you eat, because carbohydrates are what raises your blood sugar, but we don't want to eliminate them. And a lot of folks with diabetes will think they need to eliminate them, and that's not true. So we just need balance.
Okay, we have like 2 minutes left and I have a hard break here. So John, real quickly, what's your question for Jennifer?
Hey, Jennifer, I wanted to know, where can you inject insulin?
Okay. You can inject it in a few different spots on your body. Your abdomen, just stay 2 inches away from your belly button. You really use your whole abdomen. That's one of the best places. You can also use your hip pads. Anywhere where you have fat, basically, is where you can inject insulin. The back of your arms, the side of your thigh.
That doesn't narrow things down for me.
So
jowls.
So that's the best place, and you want to rotate your sites, but every 2 weeks rotate to a different area so you don't get a scar tissue buildup.
Okay, let's get Carl on. Carl, quickly, we have less than a minute. Go ahead.
Yeah, I've heard that cholesterol, your intake, doesn't really affect your cholesterol levels in your body. Does your sugar intake affect the sugar levels of your blood?
Carbohydrate intake does, and sugar is one type of carbohydrate. So carbohydrates are quickly fruits, milk, and yogurt, breads, and plus all those sweet treats, cookies, cakes, candies, chips, things like that. So you just have to moderate that. It's carbohydrate in general that will raise your blood sugar. Exercise is one of the best things at lowering it, frankly. And you're right, cholesterol does not, a lot of research says maybe cholesterol in the diet doesn't raise cholesterol, but saturated fat definitely does. You want to watch those fatty meats.
Okay, now, real quickly, in 30 seconds or less, give us information on how we can contact you and get in touch with your center.
You bet. Our number is 329-5781. 329-5781. Please call us if you have questions. You can also go to the St. Patrick website, just stpatrick.org. You can also certainly contact the American Diabetes Association at diabetes.org for more information.
Thank you so much for coming on. We look for come on again, would you?
I would love to.
All right, thanks for being with us. We're going to take a break. All right, John King over there. I'm Peter Christian. We have we're shifting gears, going to a totally different topic this morning, and visiting with Tammy Johnson, who is actually a lobbyist with the Montana Mining Association, working right now with the state legislature in Helena. Good morning, Tammy. How are you?
Good morning. I'm wonderful.
Good.
Thanks for having me.
You bet. Well, John turned me on to an article in the Great Falls Tribune. That says Montana addresses mine waste after a disaster up in Canada. And basically the gist of this article was that you folks in the Montana Mining Association, rather than waiting for this to happen to you here in Montana, you were proactive and started, working on ways to protect this from happening, right?
Yeah, exactly. Undoubtedly, the incident up in British Columbia last summer left everyone, whether we're mining industry, regulators throughout the states.
Well, now what exactly?
It's all flat-footed.
Yeah, what exactly happened up there anyway?
In the wee hours of the morning on August 4th, a tailings storage facility attached to the Mount Poly mine, which is in central British Columbia, breached and released its tailings slurry that went into Hazeltine Creek, down to Quesnel Lake, etc., and within 4 days, the impoundment was empty.
Wow.
It was a significant disaster.
What was the effect of that? A lot of people don't know maybe the effect that tailings could have on a waterway.
Tailings, first of all, is the leftovers after a mineral has been crushed and ground, almost turned to sand, processed to extract the ore, whatever the ore may be, and then it's carried in a slurry, which is essentially the water and the sand, down to a tailing impoundment designed to hold all of this residual material to keep it from entering the environment in any way. Tailings typically, because it comes from the milling process, has some residual metals, which certainly can be harmful if they reach waterways or the environment, and contain some residual chemicals from the processing to extract the mineral. So, tailing impoundments are designed to keep it intact and safely stored. Fortunately, in the case of British Columbia, the metals concentration was fairly low, and they're not seeing, hugely elevated metal levels in there. But it's sediment. I mean, it increased the depth of increased the lake level by several feet, widened creeks, carried debris with it as it was going along. It was frightening and horrible for any of us in the mining industry to watch.
So I want to ask, what are we doing in Montana? Is Montana safe from this kind of thing happening at this point, or do we need to change the way we're doing things to prevent it? What's your take?
Montana's impoundments today, the tailing storage facilities, I believe, are very safe and being operated proactively and responsibly by our operators. And further, I think that the Department of Environmental Quality, as the chief regulator in the state, as well as our federal partners, have done a very good job and has been very prudent in permitting the facilities and carrying out their oversight functions. But it's a reasonable question, I think, for the public to ask. Are we doing enough in light of Mount Poly? There it is on the YouTube or on the television screen, and the news is filled with the articles. Are we doing enough? Does the public know that we're doing enough? So we really took to work to investigate what do we have on the books here in Montana, and how could we significantly improve upon those protections so that we all have a much greater level of confidence that we're doing things right.
Now, ordinarily, in a situation like this, it would be environmental groups or communities or states or whatever imposing regulations and restrictions and that sort of thing on an extractive industry such as mining or forestry or whatever. But in this case, I think it's called Senate Bill 409. Is that right? You guys decided to to do something I can't remember anybody else ever doing. Let's do this ourselves so that we don't have to have somebody else do it to us. Is that right?
That's exactly right. And perhaps it is a switch within the mindset of the industry as a whole. We recognize that particularly in 2015 and moving forward, we have got to have what we refer to as a social license to operate. In other words, the public needs to feel, whether they like our industry or not, they at least need to believe that they're operating in a sound manner. And as importantly, that the regulators who regulate the industry have the tools that they need in their toolbox and all the enforcement authority they need to make sure that we're doing it right. And understanding that, we definitely wanted to jump out and be ahead of the curve.
Now, Tammy, we're up against a break here, but what I want to ask you when we come back is, we were kind of joking before we went on the air that when you folks came up with this idea, a lot of folks in the Montana Mining Association did a double or a triple or what I call a fourple take, saying, you want to do what? So we'll come back and talk about that. By the way, if you have a question for Tammy, we have two lines open, 721-1290 or 1-800-568-5309, or you can make your comments on our Facebook page. We're coming right back. Hey, thanks for joining us on this Tuesday edition of Talk Back. We're talking right now with Tammy Johnson, who is Executive Director, is that right, of the Montana Mining Association, Tammy? Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right, excellent. So now I asked you before the break that was it you or someone else in your organization that basically took it upon themselves to say, we're going to act proactively before the EPA and all the Montana Environmental Quality Association can impose things on us. We're going to impose it upon ourselves. How was that initially received?
There were some interesting looks in the room. There's no doubt about it. We convened a board meeting in September, the month after Mount Poly, after all of us had a chance to review what had happened. And I looked at the board and said, folks, I think we need to regulate ourselves. I think we need to, do something about this. What are we going to do? I wasn't sure if the board meeting was over right then and there. But I couldn't be prouder of our membership, because very shortly after the jaws were picked up off the table, they agreed to investigate it and take a look at it. And within weeks, they had agreed to begin formulating this legislation and trying to figure out what we needed to put forth. Within a couple weeks longer after that, after we were gathering material, they went from, oh my gosh, really, do we have to do this, to, okay, then we're going to make it the best there is.
Well, let's talk about that, because I think if you were asked, if you go out and ask somebody whether or not they would trust an industry to regulate themselves and what sort of solutions they would provide, everyone's going to snicker and think they're going to do it the cheapest way possible with the least amount of effort. So tell us what the goal here is, as far as what are there costs on the mining industry?
And what's the bill about anyway?
The bill addresses what I call the three legs of the stool. Remember, we started this prior to the Mount Poly investigative report being published or concluded. So we had to guess a bit about what might have happened. We said, number one, we have to make sure our the engineering design and construction of these facilities is top-notch. So the bill sets forth a lengthy process for that, including independent review of the engineer of records design, very stringent. The second part was we have to make sure we operate and maintain these facilities correct. So the legislation requires the development of a manual that covers everything from surveillance to how you operate to how you maintain it. It's very comprehensive. and is developed and sealed, a wet stamp placed on it by the engineer of record. And then lastly, the third stool is, do our regulators have the teeth they need? Do they have the tools that they need? Do they have the enforcement authority that they need to make sure that we are doing everything else that is required? So that is how we built the legislation. This is a considerable commitment by the industry, both in terms of human resources and financial resources. On this independent review board, we will convene 3 highly skilled, licensed engineers to review the first engineer's design document, and all of the expense for this will be borne by the industry, by the applicant. They are required to pay for all of that. So it's not 1, it's not 2, it's not 3, but it's 4 licensed engineers that all have to agree on how this tailing impoundment is to be built and operated.
Now, Tammy, where do the environmental groups come in, like the Montana Environmental Quality Center, the EPA, things like that? Where do they come in? Are they also invited in, or are they just looking over your shoulders, or what?
The design of the impoundment obviously is very much advanced work. That's not part of the public process or a MEPA or NEPA process. You know, this is still in the applicant's hands as they're trying to design the facility, determine where it should be built, etc. So directly, no, they don't have involvement in that part, but obviously once the applicant submits their application to the Department of Environmental Quality and or federal partners, then of course that will kick off the public involvement portion under MEPA or NEPA, or maybe both.
We have a call on line 2.
Yes, we do. Let's get Craig on the line. Craig, good morning. You're on with Tammy Johnson. Go ahead.
Good morning. Yeah, I more or less have a comment, Tammy, rather than a question. But, you know, I've never considered myself an environmentalist, but I, like many others, I don't like to see trash along the side of the road or anything. I've always recycled because, you know, it's free. But nonetheless, if I'm not wrong, you know, mining outfits, they only have to put up, what, $1 million bond? Is that correct?
Well, bonding is
That's
required. The amount isn't necessarily set. And just to give you a couple of examples, we have some mines that may have $32 million in bonds. We have one mine in this state that has $112 million in bonds posted with the state.
That's almost as much as the Missoula schools want to bond.
Yeah.
Almost.
No kidding, yeah.
Yeah, it's large, but it's determined on an individual basis. What's going on at the site? What are they mining? What are their facilities? What has to be done? But bonding is required of everybody, as is regular reviews to increase the bonds if necessary.
Okay, Craig, I cut you off too soon. Go ahead, sir.
Yes, sir. So nonetheless, you know, I didn't hear what she had to say.
She basically said that, yes, there's bonding required. It's different for different companies. It's not always just $1 million.
Some over $100 million.
Yes. Well, you know, they come into town and they give this bond. They create a mess that's much greater than the bond they left. And then they leave town and they leave the taxpayer up to cleaning up the mess. And I think that's much to the unpopularity of mining, you know. But that's just my personal little opinion. Good day, gentlemen.
Right. Thank you, Craig. So how do you guys combat that mindset that mines come in, they take what they want, they leave, and they leave a big mess behind, Tammy?
Certainly there have been some problems. Nobody denies that. I mean, mining, it's interesting. Mining has been part of the fabric of the state since before statehood. I mean, it's really what brought a lot of people here. But yeah, there have been legacy issues. There have been some of the projects, undoubtedly, Zortman-Landusky comes to mind for most people about problems with that bonding area. We have made significant changes in learning from things like Zortman-Landusky to give greater authority to require greater bonds, more frequent review, more ability to set those bonds at where they need to be. I think the second thing that has happened, particularly in the last 2 to 3 decades, is that the attitude within the company's corporate attitude has changed. They have such a great focus now on their corporate responsibility, their dedication to community, etc. So for projects like a Stillwater mine and a Golden Sunlight in Whitehall and continuing operations at Montana Resources and Rivets Properties, much greater focus on that, coupled with much better regulations to make sure we get it right.
Okay, Tammy, we're going to let you go. We're going to follow this bill very closely, and hopefully we'll see what happens when the legislature adjourns.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks, Tammy. You take care.
All right.
All
Bye-bye.
right. We're going to take a little break. Come right back. We have open phones, 721-1290, and boy, does John have lots of stuff to share. So he's chomping at the bit. We'll be right back. Hey, this is Talk Back, and it's Tuesday, and the sky is going increasingly cloudy.
Yeah, it's
and
gloomy.
Storm moving in. I don't know why I'm talking like that.
Peter's been doing some late night video voiceovers.
That's right. I'm going to be the weather forecaster now. Doom and gloom. Okay, let's get Jeannie on the line. Hi, Jeannie.
Hi.
Hi, we're not having any fun today. Go ahead. What's up?
Well, I'm glad you're having fun.
Oh, yeah.
But we have school board elections for Missoula County Public Schools coming up in May.
Right.
And usually the Missoulian prints an article on when the paperwork is due in order to run for a seat on the board, and I haven't seen that yet. Maybe I missed it.
Well, I'll tell you what, I just had a conversation yesterday. I don't know if you were listening to the news this morning. I had a conversation yesterday with Dr. Joseph Knapp, who's the president of the school board. And we're talking about the whole process of replacing Dr. Apostle. And he said that process is underway. But then he also brought up some things about the bond issue that is going to be before the voters. He said there's going to be a meeting tonight that will probably solidify the actual numbers they'll be asking for the upcoming bond issue in the fall for both the elementary and the high school district. But then he threw something else in. So the legislature right now is working on a bill that would expand the bonding limits that schools can ask of their voters. So right now, I think the bonding limit is like $150 million. Is that right?
I don't know. I heard your newscast this morning. I just am so against the whole thing. So, so I don't know exactly.
Well, what I'm saying is, depending upon what the legislature decides, it could be even a greater number than has already been forecast. So just be ready for anything. So
there's just so many unneeded things in there. It's just criminal, I think. But anyway, to get back to this election, there's a deadline coming up, and that is Thursday, March 26th, which is this Thursday, at 5 p.m. For anyone that wants to consider running for the board. And the paperwork includes a nominating petition with 20 signatures and an oath of candidacy, which needs to be notarized. And I'm encouraging anyone listening that is interested in working to turn this school district around to run for the school board.
Well, that's only in 2 days, Jeannie. You got to get.
I know. Isn't that the weirdest? Now, I guess the Ravalli Republic published, the information for their schools and their elections in one of the last week's papers. So it's just really strange the Missoulian, hasn't let people know.
Okay. Well, I will call the school district and try to do a story on that today.
Oh, that would be wonderful. Yes, I'd like to mention the incumbents that may or may not be running. Trustees Sadler, Holland, Knapp, and Smith, and it's my opinion they all need to be replaced. They all voted for that huge raise in 2013, and they don't really support reopening our closed schools, which makes the most sense to accommodate the increased enrollment. So I'll let it go at that, and thank you very much. Yeah, that would be great if you could contact the school district on that.
Certainly, we'll do that.
The Missoulian, excuse me.
Well, I don't care about the Missoulian. I care about our radio station. So we can get that information out. Yeah,
Excuse me.
Trust me, the Missoulian can take care of themselves. they're pretty good at that. So
I'm sorry I made that mistake.
It's all right, Jeannie. You have a great day.
Okay, thank you.
Bye-bye. Yeah, I'm going to call. Hello, Missoulian. You want to get on the ball? Yeah, and they go, ha, 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 little man with cheeks of tan. No, they would laugh at me. Anyway, 721-1290 is our number, 1-800-568-5309.
Just got a call for the gloomy weatherman.
Oh, yeah?
That it's snowing up Grand Creek.
Oh, goody.
Yeah.
Goody. And what does Peter always say about March? It's a cruel joke. Weather-wise.
I thought it was going to rhyme or something.
No.
Some kind of animal reference. Lambs and lions and crocodiles or something.
We're going to come right back. Stay with it. Hey, we're back on Talkback, and we have two lines open, 721-1290, 1-800-568-5309. All right. Our good friend Elena, whom we haven't heard from for a while, except on Facebook.
Yeah, I've been busy on Facebook.
What's up, kid?
Well, going back to what Jeannie said,
yes.
It's very important to note something. It's not strange that the Missoulian didn't place anything in the newspaper. This is something, as I said in my Facebook comment, that is going around. Local government feels that when they don't want to notify us about what the government is doing, elections, they don't want us to make any changes. They conveniently don't publish anything in the newspaper. We had a similar situation, and I think I talked to you guys a couple of years ago, last year, whatever, about an election here in Granite County regarding the Granite County Hospital District Board.
Right.
Nothing was placed in the newspaper. No one knew that these vacancies were coming up for election except the incumbents. And they filed conveniently the day before or the day of the filing deadline. What happens is that if nobody files in opposition, there won't be an election. No need for an election.
There's only one candidate, right?
That's right. So then it is done by acclamation. And here with the hospital district, the Granite County commissioners acclamated the vote. So we had the same problems that we've had for a while.
You know, I was thinking about it after Jeannie's call. Remember the Missoulian, I think they lost their title as the paper of record for Missoula, and that went to the Independent. Remember that was that?
Oh, that's right, yeah.
So you might have been reading the wrong paper to get the news on whether or not there was an election.
No, but then there was something else that happened. A record of public, oh, God.
Public record?
The newspaper, right. It has to be circulated, and it has to be paid circulation. This was already clarified.
Yeah, the Independent is a free paper, right?
That's right.
Right. Okay, so, Elena.
And as far as that Senate Bill 409, since I'm on the line with you guys, Charles Vincent is the one who introduced the bill. I don't trust him because he also introduced SB 262, which is the controversial
the compact.
CSKT compact.
All right. Thanks, Elena.
Bye.
Appreciate it. Have a great day. We appreciate hearing from you. What do you got there, John? You said you had a whole bunch of stuff.
I got this hilarious story. I thought I'd read this to you. This is on Zero Hedge, but it's a story out of Italy. And he's quoting here. It's a translation. But basically, I'm just going to read what's written here. The title is, in Italy, they are now taxing shadows. As Greece struggles to convince the world it's serious about adopting a series of reforms designed to bolster its economy, including cracking down on rampant tax evasion, the Syriza government may want to look to Italy for creative ideas on how to boost government revenue. As Italian newspaper Lego reports, which is a paper name I could get into.
Lego,
as
yeah.
a Lego fiend
You're
myself.
You're a Lego guy.
Store owners in
He's a Lego man.
Conegliano are now faced with the unfortunate, albeit comically absurd proposition of paying taxes on their shadows.
Wow.
The rationale appears to go something like this: an awning casts a shadow on public property, and therefore you must pay to use that property. Here's more. This is via translation, so I'm not sure how good this is going to go for
what
John.
you have to do is you have to hold your fingers together. Hey, that's what I'm talking about.
You cannot see it, but I'm very, very exuberant.
That's all right. Okay,
All
go
right.
ahead.
Another incoming wave of taxes for merchants, Congliano, that this time they have to pay the tax on the shadow. At first glance, it might seem like a joke, but it's one of those imposts hidden, but then not so hidden in the folds of the Italian rules. If a store or a bar has an awning outside the shadow boxing on public property, it must pay a fee that is part of the public land use tax on employment of public land. While employment is obviously only virtual, it's absurd, says Matthias Doimo, owner of the grocery store La Depensia Via Vitale. We will pay for this too, but not really talk about it. It is a shame. And it goes on and on. I just thought it was so absurd to be taxing shadows. Now, I know they've been designing like skyscrapers so that they don't cast a shadow. Maybe they're planning for the future. This is tax evasion.
Wait a minute. How do you
future.
design a skyscraper so it doesn't cast a shadow?
That's why a lot of the new skyscrapers have those interesting curves and stuff, so it'll bounce light down on the street below.
Wow.
Yeah.
I guess I don't keep up.
Yeah.
So 721-1290 is under. It's kind of open phones from now until 10 o'clock. There's something on your mind, like Jeannie did, like Elena did. Give us a call, 721-1290.
And if you don't do anything, I will do it.
Oh, John has all. Tell you what, we're up against a quick break here. We'll take about 3 minutes and come right back. And you have all sorts of audio stuff.
Yeah, we can listen to parts of Ted Cruz's speech.
Yeah, we haven't done that yet. So we're coming right back. It's Tuesday and it's Talk Back, and looks like we got some snow going on. We have a Facebook comment, John.
No, this is just John being John. Yesterday we had a comment from someone about Amtrak and whether or not one of our representatives was supporting it.
Right.
And I made some jokes about how no one uses it and it loses money. I wanted to back that up with a funny story. This is out of The Wire, and the story title is, or you can get most of what I'm going to say here. It's written by Adam Martin. Anyway, the title of the piece is Amtrak managed to lose $833 million selling $9.50 hamburgers. Amtrak has been heavily subsidized for years, and you probably vaguely knew that it operates at a loss. But the extent of the loss it takes on food, $833 million. By the way, that's just the loss on food, not the loss on the entire line. Over the last 10 years, we learned in a congressional hearing Thursday is just staggering. For anybody who's ever boarded a train hungry and been forced to cough up the better part of $20 for a hamburger and a beer, it's terribly frustrating to learn that said $9.50 hamburger actually costs taxpayers, get this, so the $10 hamburger, how much does it actually cost you, Peter, and me, John, taxpayer?
$1.50.
No.
Why?
It costs $16. So they are using our tax money to buy the ingredients for a hamburger, the ingredients and the preparation. That's most of it.
Must be one heck
Union
of a
wages,
hamburger.
$16, and then $9.50 is what they sell it for. They're selling every burger that's
at
almost
$10
at a loss.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
The main reasons government auditors found for that were theft, waste, and bad oversight. Amtrak has been trying to figure out how to break even on food since Congress required it to sell food in 1981, the same year I was born, and it's never been able to do so. The New York Times' Ron Nixon reports, that's because two different Amtrak departments oversee food service and they haven't coordinated with one another to stop losses, largely from employee theft. You know what this sounds a lot like? The way they laid out the streets here in Missoula. Get your act together. Okay, so if you can trust them to sell a hamburger, then maybe you could trust them to come up with a rail system that was efficient and cost-effective for the taxpayer. But guess what? I don't think that's going to happen.
Or to run a water
And they've
system.
given them my entire lifetime to do so.
Let's get Tim on the line. Tim, good morning. You're on Talkback. Go ahead, sir. Nope. We lost Tim.
Well.
Oh, well.
That's okay. I got other stuff to
Boy,
talk
do
about.
you. Go ahead.
Okay,
So-
yeah. This whole Ted Cruz thing is so polarizing.
Right.
I found so many diverse opinions. Talked to a college student the other day, and they can't say his name without almost throwing up a little bit.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
There's this bilious kind of outrage towards Ted Cruz.
Why?
I don't know.
Because
I don't
he's
think
a
it's
Tea Party guy or what?
Yeah, I think he's kind of a collective signpost for certain people. Just kind of a general animosity towards the other person's opinion sort of thing. I got it.
Oh, you got it? Okay. All right. 721-1290 is our telephone number. I frankly was very impressed by many of the things that Ted Cruz said during his announcement the other day, and just was wondering what you think. 721-1290. I know that he has been a firebrand. I did not know, John informed me, of his educational background is extremely impressive. A Harvard debate champion, and what was very impressive, though, he gave that entire, I think it was like a 20-minute speech with no notes and no teleprompter. That's no notes and no teleprompter. Wow. I'm sorry, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, it's one of those things that you don't see very much in politics anymore. I have certain biases from my background in speech and debate. I don't trust people that are good speakers.
Why not?
Because I was in speech and debate.
All right.
You see them all the time.
All right.
You see people, and that was the thing, right? Everybody up there, especially in debate, you're not talking about something you believe in. You're given something to talk about.
Okay.
And you come up with a position, and you. So there is a skill set at being able to talk about whatever BS you're on the show for. And talk about it with passion and enthusiasm and creativity and ingenuity and vibrance and that is part of speech making. And when I see someone that's good at that, it's kind of like when you see a deal that's too good to be true.
When the warning bell goes off?
Yeah, you're just like, okay, my kinkles are up. I'm going to double...
Your kinkles?
I said cankles, which is where you have so much fat that your calf and your ankle kind of merge together. Cackles was the word I was going for there.
I like kinkles. I think what you're talking about is hackles.
There we go. Hackles. There we go.
All right. Wait.
Let's get some calls.
Well, Tim was on line one. I don't know what happened. We keep losing Tim. Which, anyway. Let's get Catherine on the line. All right, Catherine, you're up.
Okay. I was just reading an article out of a Rifle Shooting Association article, and I sent you a link to it. It's about something called Operation Jade Helm 15.
Okay.
And it's going on across 15 southwestern states, and it's a massive, massive military operation. Does anybody know anything about that?
Haven't heard anything about it until you just told us.
Well, I was just wondering if any of your listeners had heard anything about it or know anything about it or, have any information about it.
Well, we will certainly look into it.
Okay, thanks.
Hey, thanks for the call. Christine, good morning. You're on Talkback. Hi.
Good morning. I was going to tell you that, most of my family's from Texas, and I actually have a cousin that serves on Cruz's staff.
Wow.
And I've had the opportunity to talk to the man a few times.
Wow, okay.
And I have to tell you, it's the first person I am excited to vote for.
Wow.
And I'm a libertarian, and the Republicans generally don't get my vote.
No, why? I got to ask you, why would you choose Cruz over Paul?
I would personally like to see a Cruz-Paul ticket.
Okay, but let's just say that there's a primary, because there's going to be one, and you have to choose between Cruz and Paul. What makes you lean Cruz other than your family?
Well, first of all, because I've actually met him, I know him to be the real deal and not just this, I've had a conversation with him. Mm-hmm. And you know how people can kind of hide the whole when you just talk face to face, things come out. Kind of like Obama and his Joe the Plumber moment. When I talk to him, I'm like, this guy's really the real deal. And the thing that I got most out of it was that his father's influence as far as growing up in communist Cuba has played huge on his desire to actually limit government and maybe actually cut back some of what we have already. He doesn't just want to get up there and do business as usual. He's like, we've gone too far. We need to.
And not only that, Christine, but you got to think it was somebody with a history like that, with his folks coming over from Cuba. You got to think, with all that he's accomplished as a U.S. senator, okay, he's got to have a deep love of what America stands for. You know.
Well, and not only that, his big thing, his big platform issue, the thing he wants to go after the most, besides getting rid of that horrible law, Obamacare, is tax reform. That's his passion. Let's get rid of the IRS. And he's a flat taxer. I'm personally a fair taxer. But, I mean, and what's funny is I'm an accountant. Put me out of a job, please. I mean, really.
Right.
Oh, we got to go to a break. But when we get back, if you could stay with us, Christine, because I want to challenge you on something.
All right.
I am not naturally attracted to Ted Cruz, so I want you to try to sell me on him when we get back.
So 1 minute from now. Yeah, we're back on Talkback, and okay, Christine, our friend John wants you to sell him on Mr. Cruz.
Okay, I'll give you my short take on this. This is what I thought. Other people have come out saying similar things, but the moment I heard Ted Cruz was going to run for president, I thought immediately that we have the right-wing version of Obama. We have an idealist that has been a senator for one term, that has been a good speaker, that now wants me to put him in the highest executive office in the land and trust him with that power. And I immediately think back on what's recently happened and say, don't. So what's your confidence other than he has, and don't get me wrong, I think there's a lot of great people. There's a lot of great pastors across America that would probably be really kind and gentle person, but they might not be a great president. It takes a different kind of skill set. And I'm not sure that being a good speaker and being a one-term senator are proof of that.
Well, did you know that he's also written opinions for the Supreme Court?
I did not know that about Mr. Cruz.
He's argued 9 times before the Supreme Court as the Solicitor General of
right.
That's right. You have to talk to the man. He is I think he has the Constitution memorized. I mean, he can just article this, section this, whip it out in conversation. It's amazing. And the big thing is, and this is what I want you to stop and think about, John, is you say he's the right-wing equivalent of Obama. I would argue he's the freedom equivalent of Obama. But look how much Obama has accomplished for the progressive movement, being a hard idealist.
Especially without any help.
Yeah. Well, he had both the House and the Senate the first 2 years.
Hey, we got to get some more calls on. Thanks.
Thanks for your call, Christine.
Appreciate it, Christine. Susie, you're on Talkback. Hi.
Hi. Well, having been through the political experience in our western part of the state and actually going all over the western U.S. for sure and other parts of the country, I have to say that what's happening right now with Ted Cruz is, and John, what you said is exactly what is the problem. You get someone who says what they honestly believe, who are going to stand by what they say, and their principles. It doesn't mean you don't work. I worked with everybody. The press is never going to tell you that. So if you go off of what you've heard or read and judge the character of a person and what their qualities are without digging a whole lot deeper, we're going to continue to be cheated as Americans. Because you can stand by every principle that you ran on and have thousands of people support you. But the minute you become, and I was told this over and over, and Ted Cruz will be perfect in this, if you are over the target, they are shooting at you. I'm saying the opposite. Then typically pilots learn if they're not shooting at you, you're not over the target.
Right.
Well, when you have character assassination going on, and when you have a press that is absolutely rabidly against you, chances are that's the guy you want to fix this problem.
Now, I think we all know, whoever's the nominee is going to be hated. America will probably never, ever again elect a president that people like, because the meat grinder of our news cycle.
He'll be vilified before he even makes his first speech.
And our stupid campaign finance laws, which allow you to publish whatever horrible things you might want to say, but won't let you spend money on positive ads about yourself.
Anyway.
Yeah.
All right. Susie, we got to run. Thanks.
All right. I just hope everybody thinks about it. Do your own investigating. For God's sake, do not believe the press.
Well said. Thank you. As a guy from the press, thanks a lot.
Yes. Well, I'll just give Ted Cruz a call, and we'll see how.
Get him on the show. Mike, you're on Talkback. Go ahead.
Hi, thanks for taking my call.
Sure.
This is a response to one of your callers that says that minds come in and just make messes, as if our bikes and Priuses are made at Hogwarts of pixie urine or unicorn drool. Thing is, we actually have responsible rules and regulations, and lawyers and media all keeping an eye on our industry and our mines. And if we don't extract it here and process it here and make it here, we lose jobs, we lose tax base, and we create even more pollution by sending all of it to China.
You know, Mike, I got to tell you, I saw a bumper sticker yesterday that it said, "If it's not farmed, it's mined."
Oh.
So I thought that was pretty interesting. Yeah.
Well, even farming is kind of in a sense mining.
Yep, I hear you. Yeah, exactly. Yep. Hey, we got 2 minutes left. I got to get some more calls in. Thanks for your call. Quickly, Eric, go. What's on your mind?
Hi, two things. Have you guys heard about the missing nuke from North Dakota that supposedly made its way to Louisiana, and the subsequent deaths of many of military personnel because of that? And two, this thing that I think Catherine was talking about, the military training in the U.S. with law enforcement. And the military has been gearing up for at least 20 years to take on the American people. Anyway, there's my comment. Thanks.
Okay, thanks for the
Thanks
call.
for calling, Eric.
Appreciate that. And we have 1 minute. So, Matt, you're on. Go ahead.
Okay, first of all, Ted Cruz was debate champion when he was undergrad at Princeton,
Right.
not at Harvard.
Okay.
At
thank you.
Harvard, he was he was, as Alan Dershowitz said, the smartest student he ever had. The difference between Barack Obama and Ted Cruz is we know what Ted Cruz's accomplishments were in college, and we have no idea what Obama did. In fact, he even attended class because he has presidentially sealed his academic records.
Well, hey, I think people have convinced me pretty well that the quick analogy of Obama and Cruz, not as straight line as you might think.
Yeah.
Thanks for the call, Matt.
Matt, we're out of time. I'm so sorry. Thank you for being with us.
It's snowing outside, Peter.
Oh, for heaven's
Look at the gloom and doom you brought upon us.
For heaven's sake.
Lashes. 30 lashes to Peter.
Okay, just all I want. Sunny and 75 degrees. How tough is that? Oh, get busy up there. Hey, listen, you guys have, thank you very much. You guys have a great day. What's coming up tomorrow?
We have Bob Seiden-Schwartz and the World Affairs Council. We'll be talking about the economy.
All right, you guys have a great day and try not to get snowed in. We'll see you tomorrow.